The crisis in the Sea of Azov and the consequences for us. The city of Mariupol, with roughly 500,000 inhabitants, is situated only a few miles away from the front line. In spring 2014, for a few weeks, the city was under control of the Russian-supported insurgents before the Ukrainian military was able to liberate it. But still, for another year, the Russian-supported troops fought hard to retake the city. In January 2015, an eastern district of the city was bombarded with Grad missiles, and 30 civilians were killed. Since then, the city lived in relative peace. However, this peace is now under grave threat again. Mariupol is the largest economic center in the southeast of Ukraine. The city's well-being depends greatly on two huge steel mills, which export almost all their products through the port of Mariupol, the third largest port of the country. This trade is now being heavily jeopardized after Russia illegally built a bridge from the Russian mainland to the annexed Crimean Peninsula. Already, its low height prevents large cargo vessels from sailing to Ukrainian ports in the Sea of Azov. Alas, Moscow has taken it a step further, actively harassing vessels carrying Ukrainian cargo on their way from the Sea of Azov and the Kerch Strait by implementing time-consuming controls. In addition, the Russian Navy has rapidly increased the size of its fleet in the Sea of Azov to almost 60 warships. Ukrainians understandably fear that this armada could not only be used for blocking the sea trade of the Ukrainian ports, but also very likely to attack the Ukrainian mainland. This would allow Russians to achieve the goal which they failed to reach in the years 2014 to 2015, to conquer a land connection to the annexed Crimea Peninsula via the south of Ukraine. In September 2018, Ukraine managed to move two small navy vessels from Odessa to the Sea of Azov with the aim to start building a counterbalance to the Russian dominance there. A treaty between Russia and Ukraine signed back in 2003, which defines the cooperation in the Sea of Azov and the Kerch Strait, allows the ships from both countries, including military ones, to sail freely through these waters. This treaty is still in force and doesn't foresee a unilateral termination by one party. However, since mid-November, representatives of the Russian Foreign Ministry made statements implicating that Russia now views the waters of the Kerch Strait as its exclusive territorial waters. And on November 25th, Russia demonstrated clearly and brutally what this means. On that day, the Ukrainian Navy intended to move 3 additional small navy vessels from Odessa to the Sea of Azov. The Russian authorities had been duly informed in advance. But at the entrance of the Kerch Strait, Russian Coast Guard ships have repeatedly tried to ram the Ukrainian vessels. Later on, the passage under the bridge was blocked by a large Russian cargo vessel, and the Ukrainian ships, which waited for passage, were harassed from the air by Russian attack helicopters Ka-52 and fighter jets Su-25. In the evening, as the Ukrainian vessels had given up and were on their way back to Odessa, the Russian aircraft and navy opened fire and damaged one of them. After that, the Ukrainian vessels were assaulted by the Russian special forces and seized together with their crews. This attack happened when the Ukrainian ships were already back in undisputed international waters off the Crimean Peninsula. These acts of piracy of the Russian Navy in the Black Sea can hence be clearly qualified as aggression and an act of war. As long as Russia doesn't release the Ukrainian crews, doesn't return the illegally seized Ukrainian Navy vessels, and doesn't pay adequate reparations to Ukraine for the damages caused, Russia remains an aggressor country. Any cooperation with such a country means complicity. We hence call on the Swiss government and parliament to suspend any non-diplomatic activities with Russia, including trade relations. Only those contacts should be allowed to continue which are in line with the neutral status of Switzerland, whereas neutrality should not be understood as an excuse for continuing business as usual, even with a state that acts as an aggressor and breaks international law.